All right, here let's talk about where Malthus went wrong. Okay, how could a great economist like Thomas Malthus fail to see this exponential growth of food supply, which actually happened in the past 200 years? Okay, now first of all, recall what Malthus said. The Industrial Revolution destroyed the apprenticeship system, right? And that is true. Okay, the apprenticeship system crashed, because these factory jobs raised the opportunity cost of being apprentice. Okay, spent years, as a free labor of the master craftsman, right? People didn't want to do that, when they have a better choice, when they can make more money in the factories, they will give up being the apprentice. Okay, according to Malthus, because the apprenticeship system crashed, so people tend to make choose to make more money instead of receiving more education, more skill training, right? Then the education level in England should decrease after Industrial Revolution, right? Because these factory jobs, the workers are working along the assembly line, so it's kind of repetitive things, movement required instead of the high level skills or knowledge. So the literacy ratio in England should decline. But let's see what actually happened in England here. The vertical axis is a percent of people, literate people. In other words, they can read and write in total population. And we here see from 1850 all the way to early 20th century. Okay, and here you will see this line, which is again about 1760. Okay, when the Industrial Revolution first took place. Okay, as you find here, if you look at the female literacy ratio, it gradually went up, okay, till the mid 19th century, and then it sharply increased. Okay, when you look at the male literacy ratio, it was flat till again the early 19th century, and gradually went up, and then rose dramatically after that. Okay, and so at least we didn't see any decrease in literacy ratio. Okay, and actually, after the Industrial Revolution, we see people received more education. Okay? Now, an important reason for this is because when people made more money, they want to invest more on their education, and the educational system also become more accessible to general public. Okay? So here, the system we're talking about is, like the modernly defined educational system, including primary and secondary educations, and even more colleges were established back then. Okay, a large number of colleges established, not just in UK but also across the world. Okay, so because of these, workers on average are actually better educated, okay, and more skilled, so that's why they are more productive. Okay, and the same thing happened on the farmland, on the agricultural fields. Okay, the farmers are better educated, so it's easier for them to adapt to new technologies, okay, and new farming methods. So we see the agricultural crops increased dramatically after Industrial Revolution. Okay? So we successfully, produced enough food to feed the new mouth, okay, the new generations. All right. Now here, we could draw the conclusion about the fifth driving force of development, which is education. Okay? Education is actually the last driving force we discussed in chapter 1, but also the most important one, the most persistent driving force of development. Okay? Now, how does it work? There are multiple channels. Okay, number one channel is education helps us postpone the marriage age. Again, this is exactly what Malthus said. Reduction in population growth. Okay, so when we compare, a typical high school graduate with a college graduate, you would find that the college graduate tends to get married later. Okay, because he or she needs to spend 4 years in college, right? And when we compare a college graduate with a postgraduate degree holder, we find that the former get married earlier. Okay, again, the more education you received, the later you're going to get married in your life. Okay, so that helps us reduce the population growth, and of course, it will increase each slice of the pie we received. Okay, and the second channel would be education can enhance the labor productivity. Okay, when we have a well-educated or better educated labor force, and of course each of them would be more productive. Okay, because it's easier for them to learn the new skills, the new methods, right, of production. And the third channel is that education promotes research and development and technological innovations. Okay, how R&D affects the economic growth. We partially discussed it when we talk about the saving. Right, when we say the more we save, the more resources are available for R&D. Now here we talk about another important determinant of R&D, which is education. Okay. Now, in reality, there are many different ways education could promote R&D and innovation. Number one, the educational system will produce researchers and scientists, okay, and which are the human resources in R&D. Right. Number two, these educational institutions, especially the colleges and the universities, are the main body of R&D activities. Okay, like they did a lot of the R&D, like experiments, a lot of theories or models are developed on the campuses of universities. So when we put this together, we ask you guys to show this effect of education on food supply in the worksheet number 5. Okay, actually over there you need to show two things. Number one, according to Malthus' projection, how the food supply would change after Industrial Revolution. In this case, you don't have to worry about the influence of education, right? And just think about the population growth and how that affects the food supply. Okay? Number two, you need to show that the effect with the influence of education, right? When labor becomes more productive, how are we going to show that on the graph? Okay. Again, we're going to discuss these during our class meeting. Okay, and In the same worksheet number 5, we also ask you to go to Gapminder and pick a proxy for education. Okay, you'll find many different indicators or proxies available over there. Okay, and you pick the one of your interest and put it on the vertical axis. On the horizontal axis, let's keep it as the income per person. Okay, and see what correlation you find between these two. Okay, between education and income. Okay, now if you find there's a positive correlation between education and income, do you believe we can draw the conclusion that better education causes development? Okay, which is again approximated by income per person. Now we're going to discuss this later during our meeting. Again, here the key word is causes. Okay, do you believe this figure you find on Gapminder shows better education causes development? Okay. Now, we do have two more pieces of evidence, two more charts we want to show you about the education in Asia. Okay, and we're going to do that in the next video. And after that, we will draw the conclusion for the whole chapter. Okay, the first chapter.